Home is a place.
No, home is a feeling.
Home is my motherland.
It's more where you feel alive and inspired.
Well, I think we're talking about the same thing, aren't we? Home is where our story begins.
What's your story?
Homesick at Home every Friday from 9 to 10 p.m.
on Radio Van 103.1 with Ina MK
and Rina D.
Shot City. I'm coming home again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, listeners of Radio Van 103.1. This is Homesick at Home, our English-speaking show, which is on air every Friday from 9 to 10 p.m. And this is a very special episode we're having tonight. We have two wonderful guests, and no need to introduce them, of course, but I'll keep the intrigue a little bit. Tonight we'll be talking mostly about the person and not about them being public figures. So here we go. Sebu, Simonian and Raffi, Niziblian in our studio. Good evening.
Hi.
Hello. Feel free. How are you guys doing? Feeling comfortable on the red couch?
Yes, it's nice and comfy.
This red couch is very red.
It's too red. Okay, so the first traditional question. Yeah, before we start, I'd like to remind our listeners that they can watch and listen us live on www.radiovan.fm, our official website, and also our Facebook page, which is Radio Van FM 103.1. And of course, if you live abroad or you don't have an access to your computers, you can download our application and listen to us anywhere you go. So the first traditional question will be to both of you: roots, Armenia, coming back, the story.
So
Sebu,
what's the question?
your roots?
Do you want us to tell our roots?
Yes.
Okay. Go, Sebu.
Okay.
Go for it.
Roots. Roots. It's difficult to answer that question because roots for me doesn't really mean much because we're all humans and our roots are on planet Earth. But I've been all over the place. I was born in Syria. Although I have no real connection to Syria. I was born in Halep, but that's because my mom escaped Beirut from the bombs when I was about to be born. We have some family there. So she went there, and I was born there. I was only 2 weeks old when we left and came back to Beirut. And then in Beirut, I was only there for 2 years until we moved to Saudi Arabia for a few years because my dad found some work there. Finally, we moved to the States when I was 6 years old, and I've been in Los Angeles for most of my life. So I feel like I have a lot of roots there as well. I do feel like I'm an American Armenian, although my parents are Lebanese and Syrian Armenian. But really, they're not even that. They're Western Armenian. They're, if you go back to my grandparents, they were from, Western Armenia, modern Turkey. So I definitely feel very Armenian. I love being in Hayastan. I've never lived in Hayastan, but when I'm here, I feel like I'm at home. So I feel like I have roots here as well because I've listened to so much Armenian music and I've seen a lot of Armenian art, and I know about the country and the environment and the landscape and Mount Ararat and Artsakh. So, but I also really love all peoples and all cultures, and I love Europe and the United States and China and South America and Mexico and Mexicans and Canadians. Sometimes. No, I like Montreal a lot, actually. And I have family that live there too. I have so many Armenians live in Montreal. So I guess what I'm trying to say is my roots are kind of widespread.
It's a fusion.
Yeah.
A great fusion of a cocktail full of love, I think.
I
This
think
is
a
how
lot
we
of
could describe
Armenians
this.
can relate to this.
Yes. And what about you, Raffi Jan?
Actually, my last name says more about my roots. Niziblian. So Nizib is a town in Aintab, and that's where my family last name comes from. Because apparently, this is where the family that the Niziborlians are derived from. So it was for me always a name on the mouths of my parents and my father and so on, mostly saying Eintepzis are like this and Eintepzis are like that, and Urfatsis don't know, and so on. So there's always this funny camaraderie, taquinage, like, trying to tease each other. So
the eternal thing
yeah.
about Armenians.
So only in 2015 when I decided to take the trip. So I actually went to Aintab and I wanted to see what is this Aintab, and all these Armenians who constantly say Marash, Aintab, Urfa, I don't know, Dikranagerd and so on, without knowing what it really is, sort of made me wonder, like, what is the connection and what is it like? Is it just customary or cultural just to use those words, or did that actually have an effect on the way we think and the way we live? To my surprise, I found more of myself in Anatolia than in current day Armenia, which is more Sovietized than the Western Armenia. The food that we ate and the dialect that we spoke and the humor and just the posture, the way we stand, is very different than Armenians in Armenia today. So at first, of course, the language binds you. You come to Armenia and you say, Armeni Chairene, everything is in Armenian, it's great, and so on. And then you start looking at the differences, and the more you look, the more you find differences. A lot of the language is quite different, how you write, even how you speak, even the intonation, how you're singing the language. So one thing led to another, and with my brother, we actually did this discovery trip. It was an eye-opener to actually know that in Aintab in the late 1800s, there were a total of 40 educational institutions, out of which 37 were Armenian. And we're talking about universities, we're talking about girls' colleges, we're talking about women who were accountants and doctors. And I mean, at that time, we already were so advanced to the rest of the world, I would say, even at that time, that we were really like an avant-garde community in Aintab. So shaking that community and breaking it, really, we lost a lot, and that's basically where my roots are from. But again, same as Sebu, I really feel like I'm Canadian, and I will defend Canada, especially Quebec and especially Montreal, any day. So when I'm in Armenia, I'm more Canadian. When I'm in Canada, I'm more Armenian. When I'm traveling, I guess, depending of who I'm talking to, I am a world citizen plus Armenian and Canadian, maybe a little bit of Anatolian and Eintepsi as well.
Interesting. I mean, Sebu, you have a lot of fans and followers, and most of them know a lot about you. But today we'll be talking mostly about you as a person. And Raffi is very well known in Armenia.
Well, I don't know about well known.
A very big public figure in Armenia.
Okay.
Even if I say so myself. I mean, you both have busy schedules, very busy schedules. But what is it like when you are at home? What do you do in your free time? What do you do for fun? What is it like there?
Do you wear stuffed animals, slippers?
Well, I have 2 kids now. My family is a total of 4, me, my wife, and 2 boys. And my oldest is almost 4.
What's his name?
His name is Raffi.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Named after Raffi Niziblian. No, not exactly, but one of
Not
them.
exactly.
We all know that Raffi was one of our best novelists from the 19th century, so named after him. And my second son is named Hovan, after Hovannes Simonian, also one of our best writers. He's only 7 months. So my time is spent trying to make them stop crying. Basically, that's my life outside of.
It's because they miss you.
It's because they're bratty little kids. No, I love them.
But are they watching you right
Actually, my wife just texted me and she said that him and Raffi are at Eintab restaurant.
Yeah.
Speaking of Eintab, he's probably eating French fries right now.
How old are they?
So yeah, almost 4, Raffi, and then Hovan is about 7 months.
7 months.
And other than that, when I'm not working, I try to spend my time outdoors and go hiking. That's how I
Wow.
that's how I
Interesting.
enjoy my free time.
I think maybe some people know that I put a lot of importance on fatherhood, on the role of the father, and I even recently did a photo exhibition in the metro stations of different kinds of fathers who are spending time with their children, and this is a different, not so different, but it's a different way of portraying the male
Right.
persona in a family. So I was changing diapers when the kids were very small in public. Maybe a little bit shocking to some people. For me, it was just a normal thing. What I do at home, I don't know. I watch movies on. I stream films and serial really. Like what is the cool
The series.
series? Yeah, the series on Netflix and so on. I like to karaoke at home. I sing very loud.
Do you sing in the shower?
Not only. I mean, I used to be in a choir for a long time in Montreal. So, I mean, I sang here at the opera a couple of years ago on the Francophonie. Yeah, I like singing. I like performing. I love dancing. Rena has seen me dance.
You see now how we discover
yeah.
how this Raffi
Yeah.
He's a
connected
good
with
dancer. He
music.
made me dance, so
Yeah.
he's a good
Yeah.
dancer.
And I enjoy partying. I love laughing. So I speak loud. I have 4 kids, so they keep me more busy than I keep them. With school stuff, I don't know, adolescence, and the whole, being with friends, not being with friends, wanting to be with family, but at the same time wanting to spend time with friends. This is like New Year's Eve is going to be a really difficult thing to do in a week. Yeah. So what else do I like to do? I love to play squash. So I've been going to squash every week.
I love to eat squash.
Yeah, sounds like food.
Okay.
I don't like
Yeah.
both, so.
You know, like both. Yeah. So I mean, I just I like to do active and dynamic things. So dancing, squash, and singing with karaoke, like really out loud. Embarrassing maybe my kids sometimes in the mall. These are things that I do.
That's
I
nice.
have a question to Sebu. It's a little different from Raffi. You seem like a shy person, and how do you deal with that on the stage? Is it difficult sometimes? Or?
It depends on the performing environment. It depends on the show. I sometimes do very subdued, relaxed, minimal kind of acoustic shows, which is what I'm doing right now in Yerevan with my solo acts. And you're a lot more vulnerable when you're just on the piano and a microphone. So for those shows, I get a little nervous,
Right.
and maybe I appear shy. But if I'm prepared, I don't really care. I'm if it sounds good and if the theater is good, I do my thing. With my other acts, with my band Capital Cities, it's a completely different kind of show. There's electronic beats, there's a 7-piece band on stage with drums, bass, trumpet player, vibraphone player, guitarist, bass player, all this stuff. And so there's a lot for me to hide behind in a way, or not hide, but basically dance like a crazy monkey in front of.
I'd like to see you dance like a crazy monkey.
Yeah, all of us do, I think.
Yeah, one day maybe you'll get lucky and see that. Yeah.
Let's keep our fingers crossed for this, but now we need to go on a little advertisement break, and then we'll come back to our show Homesick at Home with Sebu Simonian and Raffi Niziblian. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Ռեն, խի ուշացար, պրիտոմ չզանգեցիր, պրոպկա էր։
Հայերեն խոսիր հասկնամ։
Ռեն, ինչու ուշացար, ընդ որում չզանգահարեցիր, խցանում էր։
Ինչեր։
Never mind.
Չէ, ասե ինչեր։
This isn't gonna work. Typical repeat.
Oh, here she goes again.
And I'll be doing it every Friday with you on Radio Van. Homesick at home.
Special guests for tonight, Sebu Simonian and Raffi Niziblian. Okay, now, people who have tuned in tonight are wondering, why are you guys here together?
Yes.
How did you meet, and what was the idea behind this collaboration?
How do we meet?
Raffi and I go back to 2014, where I came the last time to Yerevan. And I forget how we first initially connected, but basically he organized several concerts, several shows for me when I played here. We played at least 3 events, one at Mezzo Club, one at Kafescan, I don't know what they call it, Kafescan Music Hall or whatever, at the top of the Kastad. Yeah, and then I did a DJ set too in there somewhere. So this was the sneak preview of my current concerts series, I guess, 2 concerts. I did one already at Hamalir, and my second one is going to be this weekend on Saturday, organized by Dean Communications, which is Raffi's thing. It's going to be at the Komidas Chamber Music House at 7 p.m. Saturday, the 23rd. And Deem is a great organization who also does a lot of charity work. And recently they've been, well, recently past few years, for the past year at least, they've been heavily focused and concentrated on branding Gümri, which when Raffi mentioned to me, I said, can I help in any way? And he said, yeah, please join us on December 9th. It was a couple weeks ago, where I went with them, and they did a branding event, and I played a few songs, and hopefully that'll help Gümri kind of get back on its feet. It already has gone back on its feet. We just need to make Gümri fly now, and so Dean Communications is working on that. If you want to tell them a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, when we found out about Sebu, he was. We found out this through the song Capital City's song "Safe and Sound," and that was like, oh my God, this guy's Armenian. We know this guy. He's Armenian. You know how you watch the movie and at the end you just sit down and wait for all the credits to see so that you can find that Armenian. So in pop culture, this is like very North American, or maybe just very Armenian, to find that. Celebrity or the popular guy or the talented guy that has made it in the world, and you want a piece of him, so you want him to be part of your life. So since I was producing different events with Element Band, Zulal, and we did I don't know, Serj Tankian and many other Vahe Berberian, Aylin Khachadrian. These are like Western Armenians who have made it within their industry, within their communities outside of Armenia. Yes. But Armenia doesn't know them or didn't know them at the time. So I'm proud to say that I played a little bit of a role of being the bridge between these Western Armenian talents and Armenian public. Today, Serj, I mean, people didn't know Serj Tankian. They knew System of a Down, but people didn't know Serj Tankian. And I think it's the same with Sebu. People didn't know Sebu, the Armenian guy. They knew Capital Cities and that guy with the funny beard. By the way, one question. Do you comb your beard every day?
I just brush it, and after I take my shower, I brush my hair, I brush my beard, and I'm done.
Okay, cool.
Homesick at home, the right place to recognize each other.
I kind of remember you saying once that when they asked you why you have this beard, that you're kind of lazy.
It started with laziness, but then as soon as I left it as is for maybe 2 months, I realized that it wouldn't stop growing.
Really?
And I said to myself, well, I wonder how God intended me to look. What are my genes really designed to show? And so I decided to just see how far it'll go. And after maybe 9 months or a year of growing it out, it just wouldn't stop growing. And I figured, okay, enough's enough. So I started trimming back. This was 8 years ago. And I've had a pretty long beard for about 8 years now. I don't even feel it on me, to be honest. It's so light. I forget that I have it sometimes. It's just a part of who I am. Who I am right now. I may shave it off pretty soon. I have shaved it off a few times actually. When I've taken a break from I don't know, life.
Okay, speaking of shaving, do you have phobias?
None whatsoever. I mean, at least not in terms of my beard.
No, I mean in general.
Phobias? No, I don't have any extreme phobias. I think I have typical average, fears of heights maybe. If I was, standing on
cockroaches.
No,
like
no,
that.
I love all animals. I have no phobias of animals or any insects. No.
Even spiders.
No.
What about you, Raffi Joe?
I think snakes. For some reason, I snakes scare me to death. In my dreams, snakes. In real life, I've lived in Karindag, the village, and I've come across so many snakes, and they've been like really like my scariest moments. But I mean, other than that, heights and all of that doesn't really do anything for me. I mean, I would love to bungee jump. I like extreme
I hear
stuff. Yeah. So I mean, all of these things are really cool. I've done like flying, not the parachute, but with the other paragliding, and I've been on Mount Ararat and Mount Arakat, and these are like the cool things that I like to do. You said hiking. We should go hiking one day.
Yeah.
And so this is like my fear would be what I would say is snakes.
Okay, interesting.
Speaking
I
of
have fear
snakes.
I have fear of lions. If I'm in a room with a lion, I'll be very scared.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
who
found
doesn't?
Yeah,
I mean, and
So we
speaking of
found-
animals, can I? Which animal will best represent you guys separately? I mean,
Do you need to think?
Go ahead.
Because mine is very clear. I'm a dolphin. I'm definitely a dolphin. I'm also I was told a panda because I'm almost extinct. The kind of person that I am. I don't know if that's how the person described it, is that I'm very lovable. I'm very like a teddy bear. I'm like huggable. But at the same
Fluffy.
time, I'm very happy. I'm quote unquote cute. I'm not great looking, but I'm cute. So that's how the person described. But it's also the fact that I'm gentle and I am very gentlemanly. I'm very considerate, and I think I would trust everybody until I don't trust. They give me a reason not to trust them. So this is how the person described, and that's why they said panda. But I think dolphin because I love to help people, and I think dolphins are like the best things on the world.
I
they
can
are.
see
I
you as
agree.
a panda.
Panda, there you go.
That's cool. Imdarkas, is it my turn?
Yep.
Yeah. No. Human being? No, Challar?
Challar.
Well,
on,
if we
think.
consider
An
human
alternative.
being
Kemma
as a
da
living
zaza
animal,
nasin.
Never thought what kind of animal you would be like.
No. Well, pig.
Why?
Pig. I love pigs. Pigs are so beautiful.
Yeah, but why would you be a pig?
Because
Pigs are so tasty.
no, pigs are
Okay, that sounded a little bit,
Excuse me.
No, pigs are not tasty. They're very beautiful animals that should not
They
be
are.
killed and should not be eaten. Just like your dogs.
Pigs are smart.
Pigs are smarter and more loving than dogs are.
They kind of have a funny,
We're used to
The way
calling
they-
them funny, but
sound they make is very.
I like the sound they make.
Safe and sound.
Yeah, they make good sound. They're beautiful, smart creatures. I also like Giraffes.
Yeah.
Giraffes are cool. What else? I like bees. I like bees. I think maybe I'm a bee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hard worker.
Yeah.
Hard work.
Raffi John, are you also a vegetarian?
No, I love meat. I love all kinds of meat.
He loves
Including dog meat?
These
No,
guys are so different,
No?
but
He
they
loves
No.
food, I know.
I mean,
They
why
have
would you eat
common
dog meat?
things.
Why not? Have you tried dog meat?
No, I don't need to.
no,
I mean,
no,
there's
no,
enough meat to go around. Like in terms of chicken, I've had turtle, I've had crocodile.
What have you had? What do you have against these animals?
I
man?
don't. I mean, I went to a Brazilian restaurant. It said turtle soup, and I said, "Okay, let me try it."
Poor turtle,
I mean,
man.
I didn't kill the turtle. It was
you
just.
didn't. Of course,
it
you
was-
killed the turtle. You
No.
paid. You paid
It was
somebody to
dead.
kill it for
It was
you.
dead. It was in the fridge, waiting to be eaten.
You paid somebody to kill it
Okay.
for you.
Okay, guys,
That
may
means you
the
killed it.
turtle
This
rest
is all our
in
fault.
peace.
Yeah. No,
May
I
the
mean,
turtle-
again, I love animals, and
You don't
for
love
sure-
animals if you kill them and eat them.
No.
If you listen, it's fine. I don't have anything against somebody who eats meat, but you can't say you love animals and eat meat at the same time. Because if you loved animals, you wouldn't kill them and eat them.
As long
No,
as you're
that's-
not,
that's
if
not
you're
true.
not
That's
eating
not true.
panda or
That's not true.
dolphins, Raffi.
As animals ourselves, and as any other animals, we eat in the food chains. We're food for someone. Or not someone.
That's not true.
Something, and we're. Well, it's not true. You
That's
said
not
you're
true.
afraid of lions. What do you think what lion would do
Yes,
if
but
you're in the same
a
room?
lion is a meat eater.
Hey,
Human
main
beings,
con-
like gorillas, which gorillas are all vegans, by the way, and they're 500 pounds of muscle, so they don't need to eat meat. The human beings are also, by nature, vegans or non-meat eaters. You only eat meat if it's absolutely necessary or you have to survive. Now, currently, we eat meat because the agricultural meat industry has developed in such a way that meat is abundantly available at your disposal. So now, if you wouldn't naturally kill an animal and eat it, instead you pay somebody else to do it for you. I personally can't kill any animal. I don't like to kill animals, so I wouldn't pay somebody else to do it for me. And I could very easily survive without any meat. In fact, I'll be a healthier human being by not eating meat because it has been scientifically proven that meat eating is unhealthy for you, and eating a vegan diet is actually more healthy for you. So since you don't need to eat meat to survive and be healthy, you're only eating meat for pleasure, which means you don't love animals, which is fine. Which is
okay.
fine.
Well,
If
ladies and gentlemen,
okay.
we just discovered the secret of Sebu's
Beard?
growth.
Right, it's a vegan diet,
it's
right?
Yeah,
How
right
long
there.
have you been a vegan for?
Not too long, 2
Vegan or
years.
vegetarian?
Vegan.
Oh, you're a vegan.
Vegan.
Okay.
Although in
Speaking-
Armenia it's quite difficult to be a vegan.
definitely.
Very
Yeah.
very easy to be vegetarian. I have not
True.
eaten
A
meat
lot
in
of
Armenia.
temptations
No,
there.
it's not temptation at all. It's you go to a restaurant
Availability.
and you say, "Can I have my soup?" And they say, "Okay." And I say, "Is there dairy in there?" No, there isn't. I'm like,
Just
"Are you
butter."
sure?" Yeah. And then it comes and there's butter and all this stuff in there. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah.
So in Armenia, sometimes you have to have the good eggs.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to have the cheese and eggs because you can't escape it. But it's quite easy to be a vegetarian in Armenia. Very difficult
Okay,
to
so
be a
we
vegan.
got the part about the meat, but what about the eggs and the milk? So are you against eating eggs and
Well, the dairy
milk or
industry
just-
is actually more torturous and more cruel towards the cows that provide milk than even the meat. It's less torturous to kill an animal and eat it than it is to actually inseminate, basically rape these animals, these poor cows, in order for them to provide milk. And then when they do provide milk, which is meant for their kids, you kidnap their kids and actually kill them off, so that then you can steal the milk that's meant for these kids, for their babies, so that we can consume them. Of course, we're the only species on this planet Earth that actually drinks milk
Of
from
another
another
species.
species.
Yeah.
Whereas other animals, they drink milk from their own mothers, and once they're grown up, they stop drinking milk, period. Of course, when we drink milk, we think it's good for us. We think it's good for our bones, but in fact, the countries that consume the most milk have the most problems with their bones and osteoporosis.
Yeah, I heard that.
And they have acne. And so milk is actually not good for you. Lactose intolerant is normal. And there's a reason we're lactose intolerant, because we're not supposed to be drinking the milk that's meant for a a cow
Yes.
that grows hundreds of pounds in a matter of weeks. The hormones in these milk is meant for a cow, not a human being.
Very true.
So I try to avoid milk and dairy products for that reason.
Hosting one of the kindest people in the world, Sebu.
But there's a question I've always thought about. I'm sorry, Nina. I mean, as a vegetarian or a vegan, you tend to eat vegetables. And what about, aren't they living things as well? I mean, when you kind of pluck or
I think what Cebu's intention is, it's more like a political statement, I would say, to some extent, rather than, because if we look back in history, the Romans and the Greeks and the Egyptians, and even before then, or even just the North American Indians, humans were eating meat, they were hunting, and they were eating meat at the time. But today, I definitely agree with Sebu.
Actually,
the industry,
that's not true.
well,
The Armenians especially were never meat eaters. They would only eat on very special occasions, and that would be weddings and dons. Otherwise, they never ate meat. In fact,
that doesn't make them vegetarian or vegan. That just makes them people who didn't have access to meat.
No. They had lots of access to meat. They loved their animals. They would plow the fields with their yezes, and their yezes were their buffaloes were part of the family. They would sing to their yezes. I've done some research on this, and Gomidas, of course, is my biggest influence and a huge.
Hence the beard.
Hence the beard. And he, for example, transcribed the plowing song of the Armenian, farmer, who would take his beloved family members, the Yezes, out into the fields, and he would sing to them like they were family. And they would never mortel. They would never slaughter animals except for maybe once or twice a year on very, very special occasions.
That doesn't make that the humans aren't meat eaters. That just makes maybe
humans
Armenians
were generally
or
never
people,
meat eaters. Only the very high upper class, upper, very like rich
so
people.
it's an economic thing.
It is an
So
economic
today,
thing.
with the industry
But
making
just
it very cheap and making it accessible to all segments of the public, it's just become a commodity. And in order for it to be cheap, they've added more hormones and so on. Exactly.
Slavery was a commodity. Slaves were a commodity. That doesn't make it right. Cigarettes were a commodity. That doesn't make it right. This was big industry making money off of.
That's what I'm saying. Yours is more of a political statement.
No,
it makes sense.
Political
for you
statement is completely secondary. If I thought that eating meat was healthy for me, then I would eat meat. If I thought eating meat was necessary for human.
So why is it that a lot of the vegetarians and vegans take additional vitamins and as additives so that they have,
That's not true.
support? What do you mean that's not true?
Vegetarians,
my brother and my daughter, they're both vegetarian and vegan.
There is only one.
B12s
There's only one vitamin that vegetarians and vegans and also non-vegetarians and vegans also have to take because they're also deficient in it, and that's vitamin B12. And the only reason that vitamin B12 is necessary for vegans and vegetarians to take is because supposedly it's only available in meat, right? But that's not true. It's actually available in bacteria found in the soil. The only reason we don't get it is because we overwash our vegetables. Our vegetables are coated with vitamin B12, but we wash them because there's too much pesticides or we don't want to consume dirt.
Exactly.
So for that reason, we take vitamin B12. Now, if I would much rather take my one vitamin B12 than have to take my diabetes pills and my cancer pills and my cholesterol pills and my leukemia.
I totally agree with you.
If I was a meat eater, so I think
right.
it's quite an easy choice there.
You guys spoke about loving and not loving animals, so I have a question here to ask. What is love?
What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me. Okay, you go first, the singer.
very
What is love, man? What is love?
Love is plenty.
Love is music.
It's music.
So many things. It could be looked at in so many different ways. It could be art. It could be sex. It could be conversations. It could be family. I mean,
it's
love
an
is
emotion.
quite
It's an
broad.
emotion. It's the way you feel. I would assume that you can look at a piece of art and just like feel love, or you can look at somebody and feel love. I think it's just an emotion that makes you feel good, makes you feel better than you were before you had love. Yeah.
Okay, I have an
Go
interesting
ahead, go ahead.
question.
Very
to
philosophical conversation we're
ask. No, I'm
having.
trying not to do
I,
that
I love
today.
this.
Go,
This is
go,
one of
go.
the
To
best
do
shows
that
we
now.
had.
He knows me, that's why.
I love the debate part. It's
Okay,
just awesome.
music and alongside that, PR.
Mhm.
Okay, now this is the collaboration.
Mhm.
What do you have to say about these
Hamakorzak tuchun.
Hamakorzak
Remember that word?
These
tuchun.
two together.
My favorite Armenian word.
It's a nice word, yes.
Collaboration is the key to
Everything.
to good product, to good estedakordutjuns. Good work. Someone could have a great idea, and sometimes they need help to bring it to life. It's true in music. It's true in visual art. It's true in film, and it's true in live events and projects. And this is in our case a really productive collaboration. Myself and Deem working on random things, whether it's just a few concerts or whether it's something a little bit more important like the Gumri project. And I know that Deem has a bunch of projects lined up in the future, and I hope that collaboration continues.
Yeah, I think in terms of communications and PR, this is important for any kind of industry. So if people are creating apps, or if people are building beautiful buildings, and they have great products to sell, you need to tell the story of what it is. So the story of a musician is the same as telling the story of, I don't know, like a shoemaker. But so in order for that shoe to sell, or in order for that music to go beyond the studios, you would need to talk about it. You would need to tell the story, find the right audience who are going to enjoy it, because there's all kinds of music, right? I mean, the genres themselves are within the genres. You have the different lyrics. You have the different kind of emotions that those songs. I mean, just R&B alone has all kinds of artists that are doing different things. So you may like one R&B artist and not the other, but in general, that's the genre you like. Okay, so the reason you need to communicate all that is so that your product, like Sebu was mentioning, is to go beyond the just, I created something, now what? So yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I create, but I also tell the stories of the different creations of the different people. I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of training. I work with startups. I work with international organizations to tell all the great things that they're doing in Armenia. Yeah, so I mean, I enjoy communicating. I love to talk, so this is a good mechanism for it.
But how difficult is this in Armenia?
I think in the world, I don't think Armenia is very specific for that. There's different industries that collaborate better than others. The creative and artist, because there's a lot of emotions involved, is very sensitive. So you need to say things, nicely. You need to be careful. And when you're doing like trade, or when you're doing production or manufacturing, it's a little different. It's cut and dry. It's like, no, I'm not going to produce this much more because then I lose money. With artists, you can't say, oh, I don't want you to do more than 5 songs, because you're going to bore people, or people don't have the attention span. If the artist wants to do 6 songs or 7 songs, you need to sort of convince each other that maybe finding a middle ground is the best thing to do. So yeah, it's not an easy thing, but it's doable, and we always find a great relationship. All the artists with whom we've worked, they love us and we love them back. So we haven't had really like a big, artist with whom we're not collaborating anymore, or we're not talking to anymore because they screwed us over or we did them.
I think Sebu spoke before about the roots and how he sees home and where his home is. But I want to ask Raffi, can you please define home?
Home.
And where is your home?
Where is home? I think home is where you are, right? I mean, now it's Armenia. I don't know where it will be in 5 years or 10 years. Maybe still Armenia, maybe somewhere else. Home is also Montreal, where I have all my friends, my families, my school, my university, my first job, my first girlfriend, and everything. My first kiss, everything. A home maybe is a little bit also Anatolia, is where I have a huge part of my who I am and how I do things or how I think comes from. So, I mean, it depends where I'm living and what I'm doing at the time. So now Armenia is my home. Well, at least it has been for the past 14 years.
Okay, thank you. We need to go on a little break, and then we have like 10 more minutes to go, and it happens again, especially on such an interesting show that we're having tonight. This is Homesick at Home with Rina D and
I'm Kay.
And of course our guests Sebu Simonian and Raffi Niziblian. 10 more minutes. Stay tuned.
Ռեն, խի ուշացար, պրիտոմ չզանգեցիր, պրոպկա էր։
Հայերեն խոսիր հասկնամ։
Ռեն, ինչու ուշացար, ընդ որում չզանգահարեցիր, խցանում էր։
Ինչեր։
Never mind.
Չէ, ասե ինչեր։
This isn't gonna work. Typical repeat.
Oh, here she goes again.
And I'll be doing it every Friday with you on Radio Van. Homesick at home.
And yes, we're back in our studio with our interesting conversation. It's
About
only 7
vegetarians.
minutes. 7 minutes. No. Okay, let's not think about time. And I have a question to ask to both of you guys. What if you appeared on a deserted island? What 5 things would you take with you?
Chickpeas. I think in Cicer, garbanzo beans. Yeah.
Okay.
My favorite vegan food.
Okay, now we know.
Can we be broad? Music.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Go ahead. Anything.
My wife and kids. Could that be one item?
Family. Okay.
It's interesting that was the third choice.
Yeah. Well, we have to survive first. If I have my wife and kids, but there's no food, we're gonna die in a week. Yeah.
Number 1, Cicer.
Let's see, and then number 4, it would be my yoga mat. And then number 5, it would be we're on a deserted island. There should be water there, so I don't need to bring water.
It's salty water.
No, but maybe there's a nice river coming from the
We're
mountain,
working
right?
with the maybes there.
The imagination is always there.
Let's see. I would say, I said music, I said food, I said my family, I said.
And Cicer. Yeah, you're done.
Okay,
You have everything to have a happy life.
I don't need anything else. I'm happy.
What about you, Raffi?
Well, I have 5 other members of the family, so I'll just take them. Yeah, I think that's all I need, really. I can survive with little food, and I can sing if I wanted music.
You can hunt.
I can hunt, or I can just get up on
You're not
that.
a vegetarian.
I can just go up on that, get those bananas from the trees or something like that.
He will hunt.
So
bananas.
yeah. So I think really that's. I think I was thinking what while Sebu was talking, and I think 5 family members, and the rest I'll just wing it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have questions to our show?
Yeah. Do you want to ask us questions?
Sure. What is the best place to be on a Sunday night, Reina? Are you going to be performing this Sunday? Huh?
I don't know. Where should we go this
I heard there's a
Sunday?
really cool bar called Barcode.
Oh, really?
Was that one of your favorite clubs?
Actually, it is one of my
Yeah.
favorite places. I've managed that place for about 6-7 months.
Nice.
We've done some pretty cool events with
Oh my
Raffi
God, yeah.
as well.
I was a bartender there for one night.
Wow.
One night. I
Yeah,
think
me
it was
too.
like
They
a
fired you?
It was a great
historic
night.
night.
Yeah, me too.
So this Sunday I'll be doing my debut with my new trio, and everyone's welcome there.
Oh, cool.
So see all of you guys there, and you guys also.
Do we have time? I have a very fast question to ask.
Okay, 3 more minutes. Go
What's your
ahead.
favorite quote?
Quote?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been a scout for a very long time.
Okay.
So Baden-Powell has taught me a lot. And I think I would say just leave the world a little bit better than you found it. So that could be in terms of environment, it could be in terms of human behavior, it could be just in terms of cleanliness or way of thinking or innovation, creating something that would make life easier, better, more enjoyable. Music, creating music, yeah, definitely. So yeah, that would probably be the quote I remember all the time is, leave the world a little bit better than it was before.
That's beautiful. Sebu?
You really caught me off guard. I just thought of a quote that I recently read by Hagop Baronyan, and it was something to the effect of something about science. I think he said something like, "Science is like an old watch; it has to be wound every once in a while." Oh. I don't know exactly what it means, but it sounded good to me.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we would also like to remind you and all our listeners to be there tomorrow at Komitas Chamber Music Hall.
Yes.
At Isa
7 o'clock,
1A. Yeah. 7 o'clock to enjoy the concert organized
By
thanks
Dean
to the
Communications, yeah.
collaboration of
Yeah.
these guys, amazing people that gave us a pleasure to enjoy their
And we will be there too.
company tonight. We really loved it. I hope you did too. We really
Absolutely.
enjoyed this past 1 hour, and it flew by
I
really
just want to
fast.
hear. I want to hear more of Sebu in the future, and more different kinds of Sebus, because I think what we'll see tomorrow is more of acoustic, but
Yeah.
maybe one day we'll hear more of the bigger sound, the what the rest of the world has been listening to for a long time, and we haven't had that pleasure yet in Armenia.
And I think our show really discovered a hidden part of both of you guys, and of course Sebu as well. And so we see that we have still a lot of things to learn and to discover music-wise as well. Also.
Yes.
It
So
was
thanks-
a pleasure.
Yeah,
and
thanks for being
very-
here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's time for a hug, but not for our listeners. See you guys next Friday. This was Homesick at Home on Radio Van 103.1. Stay tuned, stay safe, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.